Secularists and atheists have no leg to stand on when they say, wait a second, Christians aren't allowed to push their power. Yes, they are. What the hell are you talking about, dude?
Well,
I have no idea what you're even talking about.
The morals that were derived from thousands of years ago,
Yeah.
they're not congruent with our current standard of living.
Well, I think that this is unethical behavior.
What's unethical about it? And I don't think that we do need to separate out religious authority. I don't even think we can. How's he going to figure his policies out other than what he considers moral in his brain?
So,
What the hell are you talking about, dude?
For all intents and purposes, in this video, I'm definitely going to identify as a secularist. I guess in general, I would identify as a secularist, no shame. I love science. I love reason. I love the stuff that we could prove. There's not even a good reason for us to have established religion other than, to me, the good characteristics that, you know, some of the books or stories might have, and some that it might be able to teach us. Other than that, taking it from a literal standpoint, I don't see any compelling reason to do that. I actually like this dude. I like him. I like Andrew. I watch him a lot on Piers Morgan. That's really the only way that I know him. So I am going to disagree with him on this particular topic. This is what actually made me interested in this. I probably would have been interested on it anyway, but this is what made me want to jump on it. I know a lot of good, interesting conversations actually going to be able to come from this. So I definitely want to see what he's going to say.
Yeah. All right, so Christians have as much a right to rule as secular people.
Correct. So
yeah,
just to kind of, let me flesh it out a little bit for you very briefly.
Yeah.
So the idea is secularists say that only they seem to be able to have the power to push political authority. I push back against that idea and say no, Christians also should be allowed to push political authority. And just because you're a secularist, it doesn't give you any additional right to have authority than a Christian does. So this idea of separation of church and state actually doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because if Christians can push political authority, as is their right, then it seems that you're going to have Christians who are in the government, and they are going to be ruling from their moral stance.
That's absolutely true. So the Christians are going to be ruling from their moral stance, and their moral stance is going to come from the Bible. The thing is that the government and the state itself cannot be ruled from the Bible. So if most of the laws are heavily derived from the morality that strictly comes from the Bible, there is going to be a problem with using that. Because for one, who's to say that your religion is a religion to actually be used in the nation? And then the thing about secular morals is that secular morals just come from a more reasonable and objective place. That's why it's called secular. It's in the definition. So without any religion, the moral objectivity is still there. The morals are still there. So it doesn't matter which religion you believe in. For secularists, it's supposed to apply to every single case. Because it applies to every case, that's the type of stuff that you want to use when you're dealing with church and state. Or excuse me, when you're dealing with just government and state. That's what you want to deal with. You can't use a religion with all that exclusivity. You can't. You can't. Especially when the religion is not objective.
Okay, yeah, I don't actually entirely disagree with this. I would say, though, when we're talking about Christians in authority, I think that usually what they're talking about, or the criticism, is less so that they're Christian and more so that they're operating under a dogmatic ideology. And so under that concept, like, do you think it's okay for people to use dogmas in a political sense?
Like the Constitution? Like that kind of dogma?
Why would the Constitution be dogmatic?
Well, what is a dogma? Let's start with that.
A dogma is an appeal to some sort of unchanging authority.
Is that what you think it is?
I believe it is.
okay, so what is dogma? Dogma generally refers to positions or sets of beliefs that people are expected to believe without question or without doubt. This can be seen in religious, political, or any sorts of ideological systems. There are many different examples of dogma. Secularists use dogma all the time. I can think of examples such as church and state being one. Actually, they dogmatically believe in the separation of these institutions. Democracy is a dogma for them. They are dogmatic about abortion and so much more. Yes,
That is not true. Secularists are not dogmatic about abortion. You know why? Because there's secularists, there's people who are non-religious that don't believe in abortion because they still think that it's killing babies. See, that's both a straw man argument and you are misconflating arguments. Okay? You're putting those arguments together. Those aren't the same thing, and those aren't even the same people. Now, and then they're saying that, hey, you believe that church and state should be separated. Well, secularists only think church and state should be separated because there are several different churches. You say church and state, but there's really churches in states. See, they never consider all the other religions because they are dogmatic. They're so dogmatic, they're not even considering other religions when they say church and state. They're just considering Christian, and they're considering only their specific branch of Christianity. Best believe it, they're not considering any other branch of Christianity other than the classical version that is being endorsed at the time. So again, that's dogma. Now, them trying to paint these things as dogma, again, that's a misrepresentation. Because us saying we want a separation between church and state, it's not a dogma. That is something that we find is reasonable, objectively reasonable. Now, you can argue that point, but we think that is just a reasonable, fair thing to do. We don't think that it's ordained by God, okay, or ordained by some force that is greater than us, for lack of a better term. And then again, off to the abortion thing. Abortion, not everybody is on the same page just because they're secularists or just because they don't believe in a certain religion. So you just try to squeeze everybody into a same pile to make it seem like secularists are dogmatic. I'm sure secularists could be dogmatic on some trivial matters, sure. But on matters like these, and in the characterization that you're trying to give them at this point in time, is not valid at all.
Christians have dogmas, but so does everybody else trying to push their worldview. So let's carry on, guys. But before we get there, don't forget to smash that like button. You know, notice we're swimming against the tides in terms of shadow ban at the moment. So would appreciate it if you'd leave comments, smash the like button, and also subscribe.
Yeah. So let's look at this idea. We'll kind of flesh it out a little bit here. I think that it's fine. By the way, I'm not sure that the Constitution is able to be changed in certain parts of it, right, or stop becoming the Constitution. But I think the idea of what we have in America is dogmatic. The idea of, well, only secularists have the ability to rule because we have to separate out religious authority, right? And I don't think that we do need to separate out religious authority. I don't even think.
But is that the case right now? I mean, is it the case that only secularists are able to rule? That's actually just untrue. This is not true. The picture that Andrew is trying to push, because every single leader that we have in this country, they represent God. Our country represents God still to this day. Every great speech that we use mentions God. Every great leader that is respected claims that he is a man of God. They all respect God, and they're all Christian. We haven't had a great Muslim leader yet. Have we had a great Jewish leader yet? I'm looking around. Have we had a great Jewish leader yet? I don't even remember that. All of our members are God-fearing Christian men. Why are you trying to push the idea that only secularists are in Congress are pushed? That's not what's pushed at all. I do think that, of course, we're a lot more liberated in terms of spirituality and religion than we used to be back in the day, but the mainstream is highly Christian. So this is a mischaracterization that he's trying to push. I wonder how far he will get with it. So let's see how far he gets with this narrative painting, and let's see if they actually let him paint the narrative. One of the biggest things that these people fall into is that people just do straw mans and paint narratives, and then they'll just play into it instead of saying, hey, well, that's just not true, let's just call it out, let's just stop it right there, and then go above the nonsense so they can have a conversation about better stuff. That's what needs to happen more than what we typically see.
I think we can. And so if politicians are going to rule from a moral stance, what's going to inform their morals? Well, it's going to be their religion and their dogma.
Right.
So if my dogma is informing my morals, aren't I supposed to rule from my dogma?
Well, so I think this...
Dogma and morals are not the same thing, so I hope that they clear up this language soon, okay? Dogma is a very strict enforcement of your morals, okay? That's a whole different action. I hope they clear that up. There's a lot of miscommunication that goes on in Jubilee. One of my biggest pet peeves, because I mean they have interesting conversations and the participants are willing to. These guys here, dude in the chair, the volunteers, they're willing people. They just really get caught up in a lot of miscommunication.
It's kind of like you can be dogmatic without appealing to a dogma. Or you can be, I think a better way to put this, I think you can be secular as a Christian, right? So being secular, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is pretty much just operating outside of religious context, right? So in government, for example, I don't think the Constitution is dogmatic because, as you mentioned, it's amendable. Something like the Bible, right? If that's your point of moral authority, I think you can operate under that. We all have some sort of moral system that we're appealing to. But I think that when push comes to shove, right, if there's an issue like evolution, for example, right, that's a lot of pushback in schools right now. I don't think that you can appeal to evolution being false purely because it contradicts the Bible. I mean, you technically can, but I don't think it's justifiable. Does that make sense? Because
why not? He pulled a Jordan Peterson. Why not? I'll tell you why not. I'll tell you why not. This is one thing that definitely holds modern day religion back. Like the stonewalling of this type of stuff, the stonewalling of information. Why was he so arrogant? Why was he so arrogant about that? I hope he doesn't have a strong position against it, because that would be a very unintelligent position to have. That's not a debate he would win. He wouldn't win that debate. He wouldn't win that debate on any day. He would lose a lot of money. He would lose a lot of money if he tried to take a debate on that. Based on that response.
It's non-falsifiable. You can't, if you're just going to assume that the Bible is true as your foundation, that's operating dogmatically. I don't think we can really make progress that way.
Yeah, but that's just assertions, right? Like, let's say that Christians did. Let's say they outlawed the teaching of evolution, right? So what? What would even your argument be? If the argument is we have to outlaw prayer, we have to move prayer out, we have to move God out of schools, we have to move these things out of schools, then when Christians are in charge, why shouldn't you be surprised when they say, oh, well, we're gonna move your stuff out.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna move your nonsense out of here, right?
I agree. Like if Christians are in power, of course they have the authority to.
It's because what your morals are based off of don't have any objectivity. They're not based off of any objectivity. Secularist morals are based off of objectivity, or at least to the best of their ability. Okay? Modern day religion is not even up to date or up to code to the best of its ability. The history is whatever it's convenient, not up to the best of its ability or what it's remembered to be. So I mean, it's not even an honest institution in its current form. Alright? So no, we don't take it 100% serious all the time. You know, there has to be some light stepping with it. Okay?
technically do whatever they want.
Yeah, but what my argument is that they have every much right. They have as much right to utilize that political power and authority as secularists do. Secularists and atheists have no leg to stand on when they say, wait a second, Christians aren't allowed to push their power. Yes, they are. If atheists are, Christians are too.
I agree. Maybe the better way to put it is they are legally allowed to. I don't know that they're... I mean, ethically you can do whatever you want as well, right? But I don't think it's ethically permissible. I think that this is unethical behavior.
What's unethical about it?
Well, so for example, right, if we're pushing out something like evolution, I think that leads to a lot of downstream effects as far as like
Sun's pushing out prayer.
How so?
Well, I mean, you would have to admit that when you were a kid, maybe not when you were a kid, but at least when I was a kid, we used to pledge allegiance to the flag, right?
Blah blah blah. So I mean, he's about to come up with another emotional argument. I don't want to hear the emotional arguments, bro. They're tired. I mean, they're done. It's just an appeal to how you feel and going back to you as a kid. I mean, I can name a good objective reason as to why you don't want to leave out the history of evolution out of school. For one, there's tons and 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 tons of paperwork that and studies that have been written on this stuff. It's just tons of paperwork and studies that have been written on this stuff already. I mean, and the thing is that if anybody is seriously interested, I mean, it's out there. The problem with these type of people are that the same people that doubt this stuff are the same people who don't even want to go down the road 15-20 minutes with you. Hey, 15-20 minutes, just at least see what the modern doctrine says on how this stuff kind of comes about, maybe how it happens, and maybe it can make sense to you. But these people won't even take the time to do that. And it just really shows dishonesty. And that's the worst part about all this, is that a lot of these conversations at this point, they are not genuine conversations. They are dishonest. So where I feel like, as this young man, dude in the hat, where he's trying to have a genuine conversation, he's maybe an intellectual guy who just likes to explore and have thought-provoking conversations. It seems like Andrew, might just be more of an ideologue on this particular subject, which is funny because I like Andrew, which, it's not uncommon to disagree with somebody that you like. But everybody that I respect tends to break down when it comes to the sector of religion. At least their logic and reasoning skills. Andrew can be a little off anyway, but I mean, this is not unique to him, in any capacity. I would just like the arguments to be better. That's all I'm asking for.
Nation under God. So, it gives a reinforcement of patriotism, an idea of solidarity with your countrymen, right? And prayer in school also creates solidarity between people. It gives them purpose, gives them faith. There's all sorts of negative ramifications of pushing it out, right?
Wow, that goes quick.
So it's really not a good argument to make that it is unethical for Christians to use their Christian beliefs to inform their politics. First of all, how do you actually make that argument and then not make it in reverse? That secularists are also unethical.
Because it's not the same thing. Who is this dude? That's just arguing for the other side? Like, is he supposed to be a mediator? Is he pretending to be a mediator? Or is he defined on the side of religion? Because these are bad arguments. I'm going to let the other people rock out. To see if we can get some people in here with some good arguments, or just some good interesting talking points that can at least get these people to kind of open up or expose them a little bit. Let's just see, because I yearn for more interesting conversations around this stuff.
Ethical for
but
using
it's
their
a
secular
space for you.
worldview to inform their politics. That actually doesn't make any sense. Moreover, when you speak about politics, you're speaking about the governance of society. And the governance of society is shaped by individuals and shaped by groups of people with various different moral frameworks to ultimately achieve the best outcomes for the most amount of people. You can't engage with politics without engaging with ideas of justice, morality, law and order, good and evil, etc. So, if you are a Christian, how is it even possible to honestly engage with politics without using Christian ethics? It's not. Now on to the next part, which is a great...
This shit is a joke, bro. Why is Christian ethics the only ethics that exist? There's other religions too. There's other branches of Christianity that don't agree. This is so one-dimensional, bro. Like, quit. Like, you over here arguing with the seculars. You gotta argue with the other religions too. You don't even consider that because you dogmatic. And if it was up to you, they would burn in hell. They wouldn't even exist. Like, come on, man. It's crazy. What about what the other religions believe? What the fuck? What the fuck? Like, bro, they literally just say this shit with a straight face, though. That's what gets me. They get this shit with a straight face. Like, they just never considered this, never thought about it. It's just so weird.
Now on to the next part, which is a great example of someone who really hasn't thought this through. And I actually think that this...
Now, he said this one is for somebody who he doesn't think really ever thought this through. So, obviously, he is on the Christian side. That's completely okay. Second, it means that maybe his argument is not going to be all that good. I at least want somebody to come with a good conversation so they can have a good back and forth. But he said, dude hasn't really thought this through. But let's see what he says. Maybe they just, not seeing it from his perspective. Let's see.
Represents a lot of people.
Go ahead.
All right. So your stance is Christians have the right to rule as much as seculars?
Yeah.
Okay. So as a Christian, I can't disagree with you too much on that. However, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you shouldn't be in power. But what you do with your morals and values,
I agree,
should not be portrayed in how you rule. I'm a big believer in church and state, or separation of church and state. So, there's a place for the religious aspect of your life in your upbringing and all that, but it shouldn't be brought into more of a power stance.
You can't separate church and state. Let me explain why. Have you ever elected a politician who's a Christian?
Yes.
And did you expect that when he ruled from his moral stances, which were informed by Christianity?
I would expect that he...
Yeah, but a lot of morals are not exclusive to Christianity. Some are exclusive to Christianity. The ones that are more exclusive to Christianity are the ones that debatably people may not want involved. When it comes time to have this debate, those are the ones that people don't really want. The things that don't intersect with everybody else. The other morals, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, the ones that everybody else believes, those are the ones that, you're talking about. He's talking about.
Would have ruled based off of his policies, which...
how's he going to figure his policies out other than what he considers moral in his brain?
So...
it's moral in its brain. Alright, let's go back a little bit, because I remember that was in the clip. He shouldn't have got stumped by that. Let me see.
How's he going to figure his policies out other than what he considers moral in his brain?
So...
yeah, I already addressed that.
Yeah. how's he going to figure his policies out unless he figures it out through what he thinks is moral in his brain? As I said before, if you're a Christian and you're engaging with politics in an honest way, then you must do this. And generally speaking, you're...
Trust me, if that moral or that law comes from a moral that is mainly exclusive to Christianity, it will come with a little bit of a resistance, because mainly the morals that are exclusive, sorry, my mic is falling here, but the traits that are really, or morals that are exclusive to Christianity, those are the only ones that are debated, you know. Those are the only ones that are debated. So, I mean, a lot of the morals intersect with everyday people.
Going to refer to your Christian ethics. The only way in which I can think that you would do this without your Christian ethics informing your policies is if you go completely against those ethics, or what you consider to be right, or if you're just told what to think and what to do, and you don't use your own free will and moral agency.
Give me a second. Sure. Take your time.
So I feel like the specific people that I would vote for, like, his policies would specifically be how I would feel, would not be based off of his Christian morals, and that's how I vote.
So where do you want him to find his morals? Like in the trash can, or like if you're electing a person to be who's a Christian into office, right? Where do you want him to get his information for how he's going to rule morally? If you're a Christian, and he points...
I mean, again, man, these people are just lost because there are a lot of people who don't believe in Christianity that have morals. There are plenty of Christians that are amoral. So, I mean, this is just a very outdated talking point. This is a very outdated mindset. And I don't really think it needs to be debated with anybody that is genuinely trying to have the conversation. I mean, I think there are people who would genuinely ask this question, but I mean, Jesus Christ, this dude is acting like a fucking brick wall. Especially a dude who, you know, who I take to be a little smart. He breaks down and pretends like people who don't believe in God have no reason to have a moral compass. Right? Like your morals of thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, you know, some few other things sprinkled on there. There are atheists and not secularists who believe in that too. Did you know that? Did you know that? Does that surprise you? Are you surprised that they have a moral compass that intersects with yours a little bit just because that they don't believe in your particular religion? I mean, I don't get it. Are you surprised? I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, I just think it's a dishonest talking point. Another dishonest talking point.
To some other stance and say that's more moral than my stance, then why are you a Christian?
They got my man glitching on this.
So, I mean, respect to this guy for getting up here and doing this. It's not easy because
They are such fucking ass kissers for that, bro. They ass kissers for that.
on the spot like
Their arguments are not even good. They just got some knuckleheads up here.
this. But his position is just something that is so easily debunked and actually just torn apart with a few simple questions.
Where do you want him to get his information for how he's going to rule morally?
And this is why he's struggling to answer so much. He's having a moment of cognitive dissonance. What he actually thinks and what he believes is actually not congruent with what he's espousing. And I've been through that, what he's going through right now. It's this really uncomfortable moment when you realize that the position you've taken is actually self-defeating or just not in alignment with what you actually...
I think dude just didn't have a good response to the argument at the time, man. Or maybe he didn't think it through all the way. I don't know. Hey, I really don't know. Us secularists are not all on the same side. I will say that. Confidently. That's completely normal.
You believe.
If you elect somebody to represent you in your morals, in your government, who's a Christian, why would you want to rule from another stance other than Christianity? You would be then saying that other stance is more moral than his. So why would you be a Christian to begin with?
Again, a lot of our morals intersect. Let's see what he says.
Being a Christian is kind of, personally, it's more of a comfort for me, knowing that there's a higher power, a creator.
But it doesn't inform your morals.
Where my morals come from is kind of a collective of, what you're talking with FEFE estimate, a collective of experiences and I do mean...
So Christianity is purely cosmetic for you?
I tend to hope it's not, but...
it sounds like it's purely cosmetic and you're getting your moral information from intuition. Like, this feels good, this doesn't feel good. But Christian ethics come from the teachings and dogmas of Jesus Christ, right? The laid foundations of Jesus Christ. And if you move against those, you're moving into Antichrist territory, right? You're being Antichrist. So, you can't like pick and choose Christian ethics, right?
He ain't wrong. He ain't wrong, and I'm very big on that. Like, hey man, if you're gonna be Christian, be a goddamn Christian. And everything that you tell me, it better be in the Bible somewhere.
That's a fair assessment. Alright, I'm gonna concede. This isn't really a topic that I discussed too much. But it was
See, look, that's another dishonest thing there. Why they got all the weak dudes? What? I guess this ain't like 100 dudes versus one atheist, is it? Did I get the wrong video? When they do the 20 dudes versus one atheist, why's this crowd so weak? Let me look at the title of the video. Entire team of liberals. It's an entire team of liberals. Hey. Well, listen, bro. We take what we got.
No problem.
So, this is a good question to really think about. What exactly are the reasons, especially for people who consider themselves Christians, to reject the notion that people in power can utilize Christian ethics to inform their political decisions? I personally believe that it's the highest form of ethics. It's the most virtuous, the most beneficial for the most amount of people. And also
according to you, motherfucker, according to you, it's other religions out there. Look at me. Look, he looking into the camera all serious and shit. Look, he looking into the camera. He's so earnest. He's so serious. It's other religions. Let a Muslim come in. Let a Muslim come in. Let an Orthodox Jew. Let a Mormon come in. Why won't you let one of them come in? I bet you would be singing a different tune. This is not about religion in general. This is about you and your specific religion. Again, it goes back to this honesty.
Objectively true, so I have no problem whatsoever with somebody genuinely using that who is in a position of power. So on to the next one. This guy is a fallacy machine. Now, he's not a professional debater like Andrew is. He doesn't know the rules of the chessboard like Andrew does. But lots of fallacies here, so we'll point them out.
Me too.
So listen, period, point blank, I guess the contenders are not doing that good, so I'm going to do good for them, all right? So from here on out, I'm playing hardball. I'm going to take over for the guys because he already told me the dude was weak, all right? So, hey, I'm going to stand in his place. You know, just at least show representation. At least show representation.
So what's up? Do you think we should establish laws based on Christian ethics?
Yeah.
Go against the Constitution?
No. What part of the Constitution?
14th Amendment?
Like, and what in the 14th Amendment will we violate?
The fact that we shouldn't establish laws based on religious belief?
There's nothing in the 14th Amendment that says we can't establish law based.
The only thing that I disagree with is if like a law is going to like the Supreme Court and we're trying to decide exactly, okay, hey, what's the reasoning for it, if this should be allowed or not allowed. If the reasoning itself is just because the religion says no, that should 100% not be allowed. Other than that, hey, if you're a Christian guy and this kind of influences your decision, but you got some good reasons that you can back it up with other than just, hey, it's the Bible and it's my religion, then I mean, I think that's fair game. Now, if they try to get examples where, hey, the law should be passed just because God says so, that is an entirely different conversation. I don't even know if either side is even talking about that at the moment. Like, he's just talking about, hey, a Christian guy making laws, you know, therefore his laws are Christian. Well, I kind of get what you're saying there, but that's not the same as what I just described. And that's the only thing that people would have a problem with necessarily. But he hasn't really addressed that directly. But as far as my stance, that's pretty much where I stand.
It's on our religious beliefs.
There's definitely nothing in the 14th Amendment that states that you can't establish laws based on religious beliefs. The 14th Amendment, if anything, actually just protects religious freedoms. And one of those freedoms would be that your religion can inform your politics. In fact, the Constitution does not prohibit politicians from using their religious...
It absolutely can, but I don't think these people are getting to the nitty gritty. Your religion can influence the politics. It can't be the nail in the coffin when it comes to the decision making. It can't be the nail in the coffin. But see, they're not addressing that. That's where the problem lies. Nobody else is arguing really anything else in real life, in real time.
Beliefs to shape their views or guide their vote and policies at all.
So do you think that the morals established by Christianity and the Bible have not evolved since based on secular humanism?
Wait, say that again?
Do you not think that morals established in the Bible have not evolved due to secular humanism?
Have not evolved?
Yeah. I feel like we don't stone people to death, we don't kill people for not being virgins on their wedding day. What do you think that is?
What the hell does that have to do with my claim?
Oh, alright, well then elaborate on it.
Yeah, so I think that it's completely fine, completely appropriate for Christians who are in the positions of power and authority to push their position of power and authority based on their Christian ethical belief, even at the expense of atheists who don't really like that very much.
So how would you feel if we lived in an Islamic state?
To what extent? I have to ask you, Mr. Andrew, to what extent? we got to start boiling down, because that's where it breaks down. It doesn't really break down in like this conversation that you're having in this moment. It really doesn't. There's really no strong foundation to stand on one way or the other. You're not really affecting anybody's life there. That's why they're having a hard time arguing against it, because it's like, well, I mean, if a Christian guy went in office and started making laws, I mean, yeah, well, it is kind of the worst he could do. I mean, they're not specifically pointing out where people think that is damaging at.
And people were making laws based on the Islamic belief.
I wouldn't like it.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think that would be right though?
Well, for that people culture, they do it now.
Do you think everyone's
I
in
can't.
that culture is
There's
happy
no
with
way
that?
for me to establish, other than through Christianity, for me to say, well, they're not Christians and they're not ruling from a Christian ethic, so that's wrong. But from an atheist perspective for governance, you couldn't say that they were doing a damn thing wrong. What is actually a problem with their population having Sharia law? Even why would what's even an atheist objection to that?
Well, I think that morals that were derived from thousands of years ago just are not in. They're not.
I mean, without having an understanding of Sharia law in its totality, if there's any objection to Sharia law, it would only be because we have an objective moral, and then whatever Sharia law believes will go against whatever that subjective moral is. Because again, the objective moral is, because the objective moral, again, doesn't matter what your religion is, it stands for every person regardless of religion. That's why it's secularism. That's why it's subjective in its nature, at least subjective to the best of its ability.
With our current standard of living.
So morals that were established 30 years ago are.
Yeah, I think they're continually evolving.
So this is fallacious here. Just because something is old doesn't make it worse. That's just a typical progressive fallacy, and Andrew rips through it in a few minutes' time. But there are many aspects of the modern world which are definitely newer, which I would say are definitely less ethical, such as rates of abortion, transgenderism, sexual ethics, and more. I would say that our ancestors were a lot better in some of these areas than we are. So just because it's newer doesn't mean it's better. And furthermore, he's actually not understanding the critique that Andrew's putting forward here when he's saying what's actually wrong with these Muslims having Sharia law, which is to say, from the secular atheist perspective, that it's morally relative, and in terms of its prescriptions about morality is ultimately arbitrary. What is wrong with a country choosing to govern under Sharia law, or through the Bible for that matter? These people, and especially the secular humanists, will often say, well, it's about human thriving, and it's about democracy, and it's about the will of the people, and it's about reducing harm as much as possible. So if the people of Afghanistan choose to run their country that way because they believe that it ticks all those boxes, then what's your objection to that? So
Wait a fucking minute. No, fool. The people in Afghanistan that, the liberals may be fighting for are the oppressed people. The people who are fucking running Afghanistan are not the same people that the Democrats and liberals are fighting for, not the oppressed. What are you talking about? Now again, this is another topic I don't have an intimate understanding on. I don't have an intimate understanding of all the struggles they're going through in Afghanistan, and if they even see those things as struggles or anything like that. Alright? But there are plenty of places that are ran in questionable ways, and we're pretty sure that the lower classes that are subjected to those things, they're just not fucking okay with it. Alright? They're just pushing to the point where they have to be quiet about it. Like, what is he talking about? Like, dude, if there's a country where people are oppressed and they run their country like that, so it must not be a problem. Well, the oppressed don't have a voice to speak up.
Oh, once again, the appeal to something being old being swiftly debunked. I mean, the Socratic method, thousands of years old. People still use that a lot. And furthermore, for the secular humanists, one of the people who laid the groundwork for humanism was Aristotle, who put an emphasis on reason, naturalism, and human flourishing.
History is often used as a tool of oppression. History and tradition is often used as a tool of oppression. I mean, this is just silly here. He just sounds like he would keep a lot of the nasty modern systems that we have today circulating. Basically, he's saying, hey, man, people been doing it for so long, man, it's okay. There are a lot of places where they've been doing it for a long time, but the way that they do things is not okay. Not to say that we need to be impeded on everybody's way of life or on anybody's way of life, but the way that some people do things are objectively not okay. I don't give a fuck how long they've been doing it. I don't give a fuck what the history or tradition is. A lot of people do things that are just objectively not okay. A lot of traditions are objectively not okay. Do you have a right to go in there and change it? I don't really know. Depends on the situation, honestly. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of one. But there are definitely things that are fair to be questioned.
Others include Voltaire, Hume, and Kant, and they're not exactly modern philosophers. And last one, he does an appeal to hypocrisy at the end there, saying, well, do you follow the 10 Commandments? And even if Andrew didn't, and if he fell short of some of the commandments, he wouldn't be a hypocrite to say that the nation should be governed according to them still. If I robbed a bank and then went to prison and said, guys, you shouldn't rob a bank, I would not be wrong about that. So on to the last guy now. When we were at DebateCon, actually, this guy was here and he spoke out at the lunch table to Andrew for about half an hour, and it was pretty confusing and kind of entertaining as well.
It doesn't exist, bro. It's made
I would love to talk to these type of people in
What if it
person,
wasn't
bro.
written down, but it was implied? Just like... But no. Yes, it was implied by all the other evidence. Hey. You need to see the other evidence, too, that I bring forth. If I were to go in court, I will win.
And pretty much the same in this following exchange.
So, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, I think that it's that Christians have as much right to rule as secularists or atheists.
So my answer is going to be yes, but no. We need to understand, we need to see to its fullest extent of what is Christian ethics in its totality. Not because of a different secular denomination, but we need to actually be precise because there's going to be consequences from each decision we make, which is self-evident what type of nation we live in today, where you have some conservative Christians claiming to be this nation is good, great, and greatest, but can that be tested? And if it were to be tested and it's proven that it's actually evil and corrupt, because what is the doctrine and dogmas? For example, the Declaration of Independence. I don't support the Declaration of Independence because it seems to be that's not the kingdom of God nor any representation of that, because it seems to be a declaration of dependence, proclamation in freedom versus proclamation in kingdom. Why? Because there's an actual leader, a king thereof kings. There's a reason behind that.
What the hell are you talking about here?
Well, there
I
has
had a feeling he.
So some people were, they were doing some stuff, and then other people were like, hey.
Look, I understand that. To me, it seems like if Christians were to rule and were to lead, my question is, what type of Christian? Because obviously secular humanism, their fundamental foundation, their doctrinal substance cannot sustain.
We're going to start with something simple like the 10 Commandments.
The 10 Commandments? My question would be, are there anything prior to the 10 Commandments that we have to account for? And if we don't do that...
I'm sure there's things prior that you have to account for, but let's just say that we started with that.
Well, it has to come... Well, there has to be... If we account for the 10 Commandments, we need to know the reason why behind each commandment itself. From the beginning to the end, so we have the totality of reason that is logical and rational to persuade people to submit themselves to obedience.
I'm sorry, y'all. Let me rewind it just a tad.
But as for this nation, we don't do that. The totality of reason that is logical and rational to persuade people to submit themselves to obedience, to to uphold that all the way through their life. But as for this nation, we don't do that. There's problems with freedom in itself because you're allowing free will domain with corrupt individuals where technically we are.
Don't do that stuff. And then other people are like, hey, yeah, they should do, that stuff. It's good. They're doing that stuff. And then the other people are like,
So they're trying to play him out to be a complete idiot. The thing is that if you are honestly having a conversation, you can see what point he's trying to make. Basically, his point is corruption. All right, that's his point. His point is corruption. He's trying to say, listen, man, we need to see how far and deep this Christianity stuff goes and what exactly you mean by morals, because we need to see if it's actually right and just and fair, instead of some evil institution that can, be used to hurt people and manipulate people. So that's basically what he's saying. Why does he take? I thought he was a sharp guy. Now he is kind of seeming a little on the edge. Let's just maybe hope that he's long-winded. I don't know. Let's see how the rest of this plays out. I hope he tries to give a good response to this. Okay, hope he tries to have an honest conversation with this guy.
I don't think they should be doing that stuff.
We're basically children who has been given an unlawful, knowledgeable wisdom to be unwise as an option. And then we take medication. Medication? Oh, not at all.
Yeah, man. He had it coming. Let's just hope he long-winded.
Even there, that's a certain type of medication I'm happy with. I mean, I desire truth as
I literally just don't have any idea what the hell you're talking about. Like, I can't follow even what you're saying.
Okay, so should Christians rule instead of secular humanism? Yes, but no. There's a contingency plan behind that. I say yes to a Christian, but how can I trust?
Yeah, he ain't he not all the way there. It's crazy because I thought he was gonna be the sharpest dude. When he came out, I thought he was gonna be the sharpest one.
That Christian, when his Christian ethics are corrupt along the way, or has been corrupt from the very beginning, because that Christian
that would just apply to anybody. I can trust anybody. Anybody their ethics could have been corrupted along the way. Anybody could have a problem with X, Y, and Z. And that really doesn't have anything to do with anything, though, right?
Well,
why draft any law if some people are going to violate them?
Well, the point of a law is to be true.
No, that's not the point of a law. Is to be true.
Yes, to have a true sense of what is truth, that is good, that is deemed to be applied on the individuals, groups of individuals in this domain.
So you should stop at a stop sign is true?
Because, and for the cause and effect, it depends. Stop at a stop sign.
This dude is kind of wasting our time a little bit. We're going to give him a little more time before we skip him.
You're not only taking care of yourself, you're taking care of people around you.
Isn't it also true that you can blow through a stop sign and nothing happens?
Then you because of your failure and nothing happens, you were lucky that something you avoided.
So it sounds like laws are there to restrict behavior based on outcomes that could be bad.
Correct, and it can be prevented.
But that really doesn't have anything to do with a truth claim exactly, does it?
Well, it does play a part of truth.
Yeah, like we have a law that said when you walked indoors to this particular building, you have to take your hat off. If you left your hat on, what would be the...
I'm at the point in my life where I'm not really that interested in arguing with crazy. I'll argue with stupid. I'm gonna argue with crazy, man. Let's see if it's anything. It's just him. Yeah. Alright, y'all. So, hey. I love doing these Jubilee videos. I'm gonna keep doing them. In conclusion, with that one, I don't think it was a good audience that they had to come debate. I don't think Andrew was actually a good fit neither. I think a lot of his points to one dimension, a lot of stuff we heard before, but I don't think there's really too many people people who can come to the religious debate with something that we haven't heard before. But overall, man, I just like that, you know, we get to have some good conversations based off of these conversations. We will do some more Jubilees, man. I'm going to keep uploading. It is your boy. I'm gone.